on there?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Yep, I'm here.
Good evening, everyone. At this time, I would like to call to order the Bowie City Council regular City Council meeting of 3 July 2023. It is now 8:01. I would like everyone to please join me, stand, and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Madam City Clerk, can you affirm that we have a quorum?
Yes, Mayor, we do have a quorum this evening. In council chambers, we have Councilmember Wolfley, Councilmember Gardner, and Councilmember Truesdale, Mayor Pro Tem Ndebumadu, and Mayor Adams. And virtually via Teams, we have Councilmember Hawkins and Councilmember Estep.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. At this time, I will open the floor to a motion for any agenda additions, deletions, or amendments. Councilman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. If we would move to amend tonight's agenda for placing Nash Woods, we'd like to move to place on the agenda Nash Woods and naming that in support.
For discussion
For
and
discussion.
possible action.
For discussion and possible action.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye.
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 Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carried.
Where are we? You want to put it on new business last? C, item C then?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
New business A. Yes, new business A, because we have guests in the audience tonight. Thank you.
All right. We will now move on to citizen participation. Madam City Clerk, do we have a list? Thank you. I will begin with Mr. Len Lucci.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the Bowie City Council. My name is Len Lucci, longtime resident of the city, and I'm here to speak on behalf of your agenda item with regard to Nash Woods. First of all, I want to thank Councilman Gardner for having the Ukrainian flag there. Two of my four grandparents escaped the Russians in Ukraine, and now history is repeating itself, so I appreciate your gesture of that. Nash Woods is Nash Woods instead of Nash Estates because of the work of Senator Douglas J.J. Peters in terms of working with the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, the city of Bowie, and others to save it from development. And so I think it would be very appropriate for the city to recommend to the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission that it be named after Senator Douglas J.J. Peters, who gave 20 years of public service to the city and the county and the state, both as a member of the city council, mayor pro tem of the city council, member of the county council, member of the Maryland State Senate. And he always works so hard to preserve what we have here in Bowie that makes Bowie special, including Nash Woods. There's a really nice trail there in Nash Woods that my family and I take occasionally. We try and hike all the different local trails that we discovered during the pandemic. And that's a particularly nice one. It's very peaceful back there. There are a couple of benches. And it's a nice circle in there. But more importantly, the preservation of that as parkland prevented a lot more traffic into the Buckingham section and the Kenilworth section of Bowie. And so for that, we have, among others, but primarily Doug Peters to thank. So I think it would be very appropriate if the city would make that recommendation to the Park and Planning Commission. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lucci.
Monica Roebuck?
Hi, good evening, Mayor Adams and City
Good
Council
evening.
members. I'm here to give just a brief update about the development work group. Recently, the Bowie Marketplace had several vacancies, and there was a few businesses that residents were very concerned about. And so as a result, I decided to form this work group so that citizens can come together and identify businesses that they want in the community and to be proactive. And so our goal is to work with the business owners or the shopping center owners to talk to them about what we want to see in the community. And so we started with Bowie Marketplace. So we recently had a meeting, and what we found is not only did Bowie Marketplace have several vacancies, but we also looked at Bowie Plaza on 197, Free State Mall, and Hilltop Plaza. So we're looking at all of the areas. So we're a grassroots organization. We're a grassroots committee that was recently just formed. But we want to work with the business owners and the shopping center owners so that we can have the retail that we want in our community. So we are looking for members to join the group, and anyone who is interested can contact me. Our next meeting will be on July the 19th, and we're welcome to have anyone who would like to join. They can contact me at monicaformaryland@gmail.com. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roebuck.
Ms. Cheryl Landis?
Mayor Adams and members of the Bowie City Council, I, Cheryl Landis, transmit herewith my strong endorsement to rename Nash Woods and the Nash Woods Bike Trails after former Maryland State Senator Douglas J.J. Peters. He served 23 years in elective office, 4 years as council member and mayor pro tem with the city of Bowie, 4 years as council member with the Prince George's County government, and 15 years in the Maryland State Senate, which culminated in him chairing the Senate Capital Budget Committee. Senator Peters left the Maryland State Senate on July 30th, 2021 to accept an appointment from Governor Larry Hogan, former Governor Larry Hogan, to the University System of Maryland Board of Regents. On a personal level, I have known and worked with Senator Peters for well over 30 years. During his tenure in the Maryland State Senate, he took the lead in funding for Bowie State University, the Entrepreneurship Living Learning Community Center, the Fine and Performing Arts Center, the Center for Natural Science, Mathematics, and Nursing, and the turf field at Bulldog Football Stadium. For the 23rd Legislative District, Senator Peters secured funding for the construction of Northview Elementary School, the Duval High School addition, renovation and reopening of Whitehall Elementary School, conversion of Samuel Ogle from an elementary to a middle school, and converting the Bel Air Annex as a 9th grade classroom space for Bowie High School. Senator Peters also secured funding and changed the zoning to accommodate the building of the South Bowie Library. He earmarked Maryland National Capital Park and Planning dollars for the renovation of the Huntington, Bowie, and South Bowie community centers and for the preservation of Nash Woods. He negotiated the dedication of the Bowie racetrack property to the city of Bowie, complete with a joint use agreement with Bowie State University. For the city of Bowie, he secured funds for the renovation of the Bowie Gymnasium and Senior Center, creation of the Bowie Non-Emergency Response Center, rehabilitation of the historic Knights of St. John Hall, and renovation of Champ House. For more than 2 decades, Senator Peters has been a strong leader, a workhorse, and the go-to person to get things done for the greater Bowie community. In his low-key yet persuasive manner, he has had a quiet hand in achieving outstanding results for the areas he represented during his public service in the city, the county, and the state of Maryland. I could go on and on about Senator Peters' many accomplishments, but I will stop here. I think I have laid out a very clear picture of what an exceptional servant leader looks like. I believe with all my heart that Senator Peters has earned many times over the honor and privilege of having Nash Woods and the Nash Woods Bike Trails named in his honor. Your favorable consideration is respectfully requested. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have Leo Green Jr., the Honorable.
There's no honor in me. I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor and council persons, the opportunity to speak to you. First time I've spoken to this august group since I left it in 2001. I speak here solely as a citizen of over 60 years in this city. Your movement, Councilman Gardner, is appropriate, receives overwhelming support in my household. My wife generally is not unanimous, but we'll deal with it from there. I think Councilman Wolfley will attest to that from there. Let me be clear about this. As somebody who walks that woods weekly, sometimes almost daily, it is a beautiful place. It is appropriate that it be renamed, but it should be renamed for a couple reasons. Nash Woods is not appropriate in my book. When I was a city councilman, I was a city councilman here for 5.5 years. Had the pleasure to serve with Doug Peters for 4 of those 5.5 years. I served all those years with the gentleman behind me to the left, Dennis Brady. Nash Woods, the name Nash in 23 years ago was a bad name in our city. And it was a tough situation when they wanted to rezone it and put a shopping center in it, housing units. It was not welcome in the Kenilworth, Buckingham, Somerset areas of our city. I can attest to that fact. But Nash Woods is not an appropriate to name it. Kenilworth Woods, while appropriate, too bland in my book. Your proposal is just completely apropos. It's completely the right thing to do. For all the reasons just previously stated, something should be named in this city for Doug Peters. Once you name certain things and different things, I've been in your position. It's a difficult spot. Cetera Auditorium over at the Allen Pond is named for a specific purpose. You recently named Fred Robinson Way. That's for a specific purpose. I know my father's name adorns the pedestrian bridge over Route 50. It's there for a specific purpose. Nash Woods is a specific purpose for Doug Peters. When I sat on the right side of the council, as opposed to the left side of the council with Doug Peters, and Nash Woods' proposal came through, it was a kick in the bucket to both of us. And I do recall looking at my good friend and saying, what a mess we've got ourselves into, Ollie. How are we going to solve this? There is no finer government official in our generation than Doug Peters. He holds the rare esteem of being able to drive through this city and, quite frankly, see all the things that he's touched. A number of months ago, I was walking in Nash Woods, and as I do from time to time, I talk to Doug Peters. We talk on a personal, professional basis a lot of times. We're friends. We're very good friends. But I talked to him about Nash Woods, and we were talking as I was walking, and I had my earphones in, as this generation and our generation now is learning how to do it. And I said something along the lines is, you did a fabulous job with this. And I know what he did, both from a professional standpoint, a legal standpoint, and a political, governmental standpoint. But Doug was flat out back. He said, this might have been one of my best pieces of work. And you know what? I agree. I agree wholeheartedly that it should be named for Doug Peters. I know there's some hurdles we have. City doesn't have complete authority in this spot. We didn't have authority there. What he did for the Nash Woods is a specific thing that he can say, and we can say, he did a damn good job. And we should as a city do this. So I thank you for your proposal. I stand as a 60-year resident. I appreciate your use of the title. I know you don't use that all the time in your house, but you should. She's a great lady. But bottom line is, this is the right thing to do. It's the right thing for the city. And it's been 23 years since I've been in front of this body, and I can't think of a finer reason to be here and say, do it. I thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
And again, congratulations.
Thank you. On what?
We'll talk later.
We'll talk. Condolences to you, though. Take care. God bless.
God bless. Thank you. Thank you, Judge Green.
All right, our next person up is Todd M. Turner. How you doing, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Mayor, good to see you this evening. Members of the Bowie City Council, good to be before you again. Actually, I'm here in my individual capacity. I'm not looking at you at any other reasons in my other capacity, okay? I want to say that up front. I don't have any responsibility for city anyway, so. But anyway, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I want to thank you for your effort this evening to add this item to your agenda, particularly Councilmember Gardner, who put out the trumpet call to say this is something that the City Council will be considering. I'm proud to be here in support of your efforts to work with the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission to seek the renaming of Nash Woods and the trail in the honor of our former colleague as a member of this body, as you heard from former City Council member and former Judge Green. Listen, I think we all know, and you heard from Ms. Landis about the 25 almost plus years of public service that Doug Peters has provided, not only to the city of Bowie, to Prince George's County, and to the state of Maryland. As I walked in here, I just remembered, we have the Bowie Wall of Fame outside. And one of the restrictions is you can't be an elected official or former elected official. So how do we recognize those officials who've been outstanding service to this city and not only to the county and to the state? And I know you've made efforts over the last couple of years to do that for those who have served the city of Bowie. And I think given his service to this community, that the renaming is obviously something that I would be supportive of, and hopefully the Park and Planning Commission would be supportive of as well. I did want to mention a couple of things. It's not like this is your life for Doug Peters, but you see people who have been with him over the years, and I've had that privilege for over 20 years now, not only knowing him personally and his family, working for him at the time that this was being considered, working with him in my own capacity as a member of this body, as a member of the Prince George's County Council. And I agree wholeheartedly with my previous speakers. I think we all can agree that Doug has a true place for Bowie in his heart and his work over the years. I'll only mention one other thing, since I know your evening is hopefully not too long, since we're about to celebrate the holiday tomorrow. I had the privilege, as a member of the Prince George's County Council, to chair a work group that talked about when we would rename or name facilities, streets, other things in Prince George's County. This all came out of, obviously, what would occurred in 2020 and the efforts around the country and the world about recognizing our history appropriately here, not only in Prince George's County. So I'll send you a copy of that final report. It gives you a matrix of what you can consider positive and negative with respect to a renaming of a facility. But if you already have that experience, obviously, in renaming the street before City Hall today. But I think that will give you a guideline. It has not passed anything yet. It was a recommendation to the county council, to park and planning, so it's something that they can consider as well. But that can give you a way of arguing why the city of Bowie should participate in renaming of a county facility as opposed to a city facility. So with that, Mayor, members of the City Council, I want to thank you for your consideration. Once again, I do support this, having known Doug and his work that he's done. I would say in particular with Nash Woods, as has been mentioned, without Doug Peters working with the City Council, working with Park and Planning Commission, that could have been a developed property instead of what it is today. And so we have a legacy, literally 20 years. It was 2003, and I know because I was there as a staff member working to make sure that we were able to move forward. And I will say this, it was kind of the epitome of what Doug Peters has been throughout his public service career. He's brought people together, he's found resolutions to conflicts. And in this case, he got somebody to pay a lot of money to purchase the property so it wouldn't be developed and give it to them for a cheaper cost. As part of that, as part of the consideration of what used to be called Maryland Science and Technology Center, which we now know today as Milford. So again, this might be one of those test cases of a perfect opportunity for potential renaming because of the work that he did individually and working with others to make this a possibility for the city of Bowie. So I'll leave it there. Thank you very much. I wish you all a safe, happy, and enjoyable July 4th holiday, as well as to our staff and to the other residents of the city of Bowie. Thank you.
Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
3 minutes. Thank you very much. We'll now have Senator Ron Watson. I'd just like to say good evening, Senator, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Let me also thank Councilman Henri Gardner for putting this in. And I agree with everything those who spoke before me said, but I always like to do a little research. So let me just share something. There was a 100-acre parcel of land owned by the Nash family, and they signed a contract with the developer. They wanted to develop and build 100,000 square acres of shopping center. At the same time, the effort was in place for Milford. Needless to say, those two developments would have been a traffic nightmare for 301. It was Senator Peters, Councilmember Peters at the time, who approached the developer who was adamant that they wanted $12 million. It didn't matter that the property wasn't worth $12 million. $12 million was the perceived value if it was fully developed. And it was Doug Peters who did his research and found $6 million in the Advanced Land Acquisition Fund and Park and Planning budget. With that, and with the support and deep work with the county executive and county council, he secured that $6 million for Nash Woods, and then got the developer of Milford to kick in the other $6 million. That property was purchased for $12 million and secured as open space in perpetuity. Now, there's nothing and nowhere in Bowie that you can go and don't see Doug Peters' fingerprints on it. And what he was able to do to this, as important as open space is, especially in this high climate of development and those types of things, is remarkable. But it's through his tenacity, his ability to work with people that he's shown over the course of his 23 years, and I guess 23 is the magic number, which means I got 13 more to go, that he was able to do this. So I think it very appropriate that Nash Woods be named after Douglas J.J. Peters, and I hope that this body will find favor in that and support that with Park and Planning. So I thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Senator.
We now have Pete Meltis.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Pete Mellitz, I'm a resident of Buckingham Section, District 2. Want to thank you for the opportunity. I was coming from another fire department meeting, getting here. Just wanted to speak briefly. A number of others have already spoken with respect to Doug Peters and his accolades with respect to what he's done in the city and at the county level. But more importantly, for the city, this particular project, as many others have stated, could have been developed, but through the foresight of all the items that have been already spoken that Doug was able to do, was able to negotiate residential in Milford that was not originally proposed back then, and was able, with the forethought of seeing where development was going in the Washington metro area, and seeing that this, in essence, a trade of land to preserve in one state, and then make the changes in zoning in Milford to be able to accommodate the, for lack of other terms, deal that was struck to preserve those woods, allowing residential in Milford was huge. I think that where we are today in 2023, that vision of what could transpire actually did come to reality, because as you know, the opportunity for science and tech kind of dwindled out. A lot of that development went up on the 270 corridor and at the time, and the opportunity to maybe give that new birth to Melford and what it could be, which with it being mixed use, where we are today, is a huge benefit to the city. And there's a lot of good things going on there, the mix of residential, the senior housing that's in there, the office, public safety. All of those items has come to be a benefit for the city, and I think all, as noted, Doug was able to be the architect, if you will, of that. That being said, like others, I think it's a great opportunity to move this forward, name the woods on his behalf. Councilman Gardner had mentioned it and asked if there were comments available. And as a resident of District 2, which is directly right there in Buckingham, fully support that and applaud the council for considering making the change. Doug, and he never left his roots for City of Bowie. Huge advocate of the fire department, volunteers, as you know, close to me, the volunteer fire service, and a huge proponent of public safety, meaning the police. So that being said, it would be very fitting to do what council is proposing. So thank you for the opportunity to speak on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, who came out this evening to speak. We appreciate that. At this time,
Excuse me, Mayor.
did I miss you, Darrell Carrington?
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Mr. Gardner, thank you for the invitation and thank you for putting forward the proposal, working with Park and Planning. Everyone has said a lot this evening about Doug Peters and our reasons for wanting to rename these woods. I'm just here as a private citizen to add my voice to the chorus. I will speak to Doug as a family man and as someone who I've worked with over the years, and I've seen his strong dedication and commitment to his family, and so that his children and grandchildren will be able to use these woods and see his name on it as a testament to all the work that he has done over the years for this community. So again, I offer my support and appreciation to you, Mr. Gardner, for bringing this forward, and to the council and the mayor for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we will now move on to presentation. And we have the Heritage Month presentation by the Diversity Committee.
Greetings, everyone. I'm going to put my glasses on. My name is Tiffany Scales, and I'm a member of the City of Bowie Diversity Committee. And today I want to recognize and celebrate Disability Pride Month that takes place during the month of July. Many of you may not be aware that this month even exists. I am learning about it myself, but that's even more a reason why we need to celebrate it. Disability Pride Month has been celebrated in various cities across the country since 2004. The month of July was chosen to commemorate the American with Disabilities Act that was passed July 26, 1990. Our own Mayor Adams is a major advocate for disability awareness, and last year attended an event at the White House to commemorate ADA. The American with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination against anyone with disabilities, including in employment, transportation, public accommodations, communications, and in relation to access to state and local government services. This is critical as the World Health Organization refers to persons with disability as the world's largest minority, meaning that this issue likely impacts all of us in some way. So I do want to read a few stats from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention that discusses the importance of disability, persons with disabilities. So up to 1 in 4 adults in the United States have some type of disability. When we break this down even further, we see that 12.1% of US adults have a mobility disability, with serious difficulty walking or climbing stairs. 12.8% of U.S. adults have a cognitive disability with serious difficulty concentrating, remembering, or making decisions. 7.2% of U.S. adults have an independent living disability, and they have difficulty doing errands alone. 4.8% of U.S. adults have a vision disability with blindness or serious difficulty seeing even when wearing glasses. And so based on these stats, it's likely that if not you, then someone you work with, live with, or love is a person who identifies as a person with a disability. So this July, I ask that we all look inwardly and think inwardly about how we can be more inclusive to those around us. I ask that we honor the dignity and humanity in others. I ask that we educate ourselves on disability rights. And I ask that we advocate for improved access for all people in our communities, in our city, and in our state. Lastly, I want to leave with you a few actions that we all can adopt today to show respect to those with disabilities. One is, do not assume that people with disabilities are willing to disclose their disabilities. There are lots of hidden disabilities that people are dealing with every day, and we just want to be respectful of that. While some people prefer to be public about their disabilities, others may not, and that's okay. And then lastly, use person-first language when we talk about persons with disability. Recognize that people with disabilities are first and foremost people. A person isn't a disability, a condition, or a diagnosis. A person has a disability, condition, or a diagnosis. And so we want to be respectful of all of those people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We will now move on to our city boards and committees, our appointments, reappointments, and swearing in. And Ms. Lydia Peters was interviewed on June 20th for appointment to the Arts Committee. Council concurred to appoint her to the committee as a member for a 2-year term. I would open the floor for a motion to please move to appoint her.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. At this time, I would like to ask that Mr. Zach Lowe, who was interviewed on June 20th for appointment to the Board of Elections. Council concurred to appoint him to the board as a member for a 2-year term. I would ask that we open the floor for a motion to appoint him.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. I would ask Ms. Lydia Peters and Mr. Zach Lowe to please come forward. Please stand behind the microphone so we can swear you in. Take your time. Okay. If you would, please raise your right hand. I state your name.
I, Lydia Peters,
Do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and that I will be faithful
and that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of Maryland
to the state of Maryland,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and support the Constitution and laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
to the best of my skill and judgment,
diligently and faithfully,
diligently and faithfully,
without partiality or prejudice,
without partiality or prejudice,
execute the office of regular and state which committee you're going to be on.
Execute the
Office
office
and-
of Board of Election.
and
Elections and Arts Regular.
that,
According to the Constitution
according to the Constitution
and the laws of this state.
and the laws of this state.
Congratulations. Please come forward.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. There you go.
Congratulations, thank you so much for your time.
Here you go. Thank you so very much, and take your time, okay? Okay.
Thank you so much, very much appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. At this time, we will now move to the city council announcements. Are there any announcements that council members would like to make at this time?
Yes, I do have one. You want to go? No, go ahead. Oh, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I recognize you, Councilman Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Endeavor Madu and myself are hosting a event this Friday with Volunteers of America. We're doing a full backpack and summer camp giveaway items. So that is going to be held this Friday at the Ken Hill Center from 6 p.m. until 9 p.m. So announcements and emails will go out. And I don't have anything else just yet. There was one other item, but.
Council member, did you have anything, Mayor Pro Tem? Any other council members? Hearing none, thank you.
I can do it. So we'll be giving away backpacks and other camp items on July 7th, 6:30 to 10:30 at the Ken Hill Community Center. I'll just jot down the address for people if they need it. It's 2614 Ken Hill Drive, Bowie, Maryland, 20715.
Okay, thank you. We will now go on to the city manager's report.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, City Council, I have no report tonight, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time. Excuse me.
So moved. Nope, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Councilman. One more council announcement.
Just one other council announcement. There were some, this past Sunday, we had the summer concert, and a couple of residents reached out to me, not a couple, maybe 10 or more, reached out to me stating that they would be more comfortable if we would have perhaps more police presence there at the concert. They said it made them a little uneasy. So I just wanted to share that. And then also there was an occurrence yesterday on Mount Nemo Court, Nemo Court in the 4th District 4 in section. And some of the residents over there as well reached out to me in concern, and they just also asked for more police presence, just, trailing cars or whatever, walking the beat. You guys know what you do, okay? I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Go right ahead.
And just one more announcement from me. I know I got a couple of emails from residents in District 4 regarding BGE power outages. BGE is checking the feeders this week, and we'll get back to staff with a response this week, so we'll be able to share more information and have just a little bit more insight on what exactly is going on with power outages in District 4. Thank you.
Okay, going back to the entertaining motion for the consent agenda.
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. We have no old business, correct, Madam City Clerk?
Correct, Mayor.
We will now go on to new business. Our first item will be the Prince George's County's notice regarding the city's participation as a municipality in its HUD CDBG programs. I'll turn it over to Staff?
Good evening. You
I'm
gonna go?
sorry, Mayor, I thought you guys wanted to do the discussion
Oh, I
of,
thought we were putting at the end of the item. We moved it to A. We moved it to item A. Okay. Then I will open it up since, to discussion amongst council, because, my first question might be to, staff, if you have any background that you'd like to share at this time?
No, sir, other than the fact that I don't think we control the property, but yeah, we would have to establish some communications method through written communications or some sort of lobbying with Park and Planning regarding this property, I believe.
We want to send a letter. We would, I don't want to speak up.
I would at this time, Councilman, would you like to speak? Go right ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. City Manager, so we would enter into a letter agreement from the council going to Park and Planning?
I think that would be the most expeditious if the council wanted to communicate to the Park and Planning that that they wanted to rename this facility, the trail. Then a letter should go forward, and then simultaneously we would start coordinating with the people on the ground to see the feasibility of it and what they require us to do, and if it falls in, how it fits into their policies and procedures. Yeah, that's what would have to happen, I think.
I was looking, City Attorney, did you have any, oh, okay. No objections to that? Okay, all right. Well,
Anyone else would like to speak at this time? Mayor Pro Tem? Any comments, questions, anything? Okay. Having said that, at this time, I think what we need to look at is how we would like to move forward.
yes, sir.
One of the things I think we need to make sure that everyone understands, we did this as in addition to the agenda as it was brought forth before council just today. So I don't want anyone to think that we were in any way, shape, or form trying not to have the public engaged and an understanding of what was trying to be done. But there was just some sense of trying to get people, particularly on the day before the holiday when they would be available to come and speak, and some of those other things was a part of that. So at this time, we would like to, I'd like to open it up again for discussion, if there is any between any of the members at this time. And this is not something we have to take action on tonight, but as we put on there, we could make some determination tonight.
Okay.
So,
Well, Mr. Mayor, with your permission and support of my colleagues, is that we would direct staff to reaching out or developing a plan of action to reaching out to Park and Planning, as well as our lobbyists and all, to getting them on the ground, as well as our elected officials, our current senator, our current county council member, and directing them to supporting us in naming the trails in Nash Woods for former Senator Douglas J.J. Peters.
Madam City Attorney, is that okay for us to just ask staff if they could do the research on that and get back with us on putting that forward?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. I think we're in agreement with direction. We're all in agreement with that.
Yes,
So
we are.
that's fine. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for doing this evening. I'm definitely certain that the Peters family and our former senator is very happy that you took the lead on, this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much.
Understood.
Thank you very much.
All right, now let's go on to the Prince George's County, the HUD CDBG program, and I'll turn it over to staff.
Good evening, Jesse Buggs, Director of the Grants Office for the City and manager of several other programs. Every 5 years, the Prince George County government, as an entitlement community, has to go file what they call a consolidated plan with HUD. And in order to file that plan, they're required to get a signature or commitment from all the municipalities in the county to participate. Since the city of Bowie is its own entitlement community, we have, since 2003, elected to continue in that vein and responded to them with a notice to the county and to HUD that we will continue doing what we're doing. As you saw in the memo that you received, the city has and its residents have benefited tremendously from that, and therefore we recommend that we continue in that vein. And if you require additional information, we can provide it. But the bottom line is that the residents have benefited both through our housing rehab programs, through homelessness programs that we run. The grants office not only manages the grants, but we also manage all the programs. So the approximately $1 million that we get every 5 years, plus other monies that we get by leveraging those funds, is what this program enables us to do. So that the city council created it, and because there was some discussion a few weeks ago that the city council wanted to revisit it, that's why we're bringing it to you tonight, for you to decide, based on a letter that the mayor received a few weeks ago. A decision has to be made and provided to the council by July 7th. So we're here tonight to receive your guidance. Thank you.
I will open it up to council if we have any questions.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Before Wolfie.
First of all, thank you for being here this evening. I think the discussion that we'd had as part of the budget process really was looking for a more comprehensive assessment and implications on the long-term benefit of the city being a part. I don't think that we ought to stop participating at present without having a full understanding of the implications and the benefits of doing so. As we know, we because of our participation in the past, we had a fairly significant miss on federal funding that we would have gotten a much more, shall we say, lucrative grant had we not been, so registered as a community. So it also begs the question with regard to the value in terms of the dollars and cents of the level of effort in terms of managing all of the efforts and, frankly, the red tape that goes with it. We might be better able to serve our constituents more quickly and with just the same amount of money. As a case in point, we have a lot of work being done on our water system. The water system has significant problems. We're the beneficiaries of some federal money, but that in and of itself comes with strings attached, and there's specifically rules and regulations as to how you pursue that business. And what we see is we are almost finished with the work that the city is funding through its other resources before we're even able to get off the ground with the effort that will be funded at the federal level. So that kind of, obviously, I'll take the grant over nothing. It's certainly better to receive money and be able to proceed slowly in that circumstance. However, there are situations where I don't know that we're getting all that much, and I'm not sure that the value in terms of quickly being responsive to our community, I'm not sure it's really there. So I think we're not there yet, at least I'm not there yet, from the standpoint of thinking that this is fine, we're going to sign a letter and we're going to keep doing this, in perpetuity. I think the question is still out, but I think that from an administrative standpoint, we ought to be in a position to keep things going so that we're not, in case we do decide we want to proceed and continue with the way we've been, interacting with HUD on this, that we aren't precluded from receiving benefits in the short term. But I do think that there is an ongoing need, or, excuse me, a need for some ongoing dialogue and discussion and some assessment on the value of maintaining this sort of relationship. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Mr. Buggs, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here this evening. I guess my question is really specific to line C on page 147, that's document 4. And it clearly outlines, it's kind of going off of Councilmember Wolfley's point, where it says included units of government must also be notified that they are not eligible to apply for grants under state CDBG program while they are part of urban county. Additionally, that in becoming a part of the urban county, they automatically participate in home and ESG programs if the urban county receives home and ESG funding respectively. So I guess I'm trying to understand, are these programs that we're participating in based off of this particular program, do they outweigh the potential funding that we could be getting in other areas, or based off of what you're seeing in terms of trends and grant funding that's coming out of the federal government, are there other bets that you would be more willing to take instead of sticking with this particular program and keeping us essentially participating in this program? I guess that's what I'm looking to understand.
Okay, there are two answers. One is this specific program is geared toward housing and community development. So it is not an environmental program, it is not several other programs. So the funds that we get through this program, we primarily give directly in form of assistance to homeowners, the housing rehab program we do, the housing programs that we fund, as well as homelessness. The other part of the answer to that question is we pursue all other grants that we can for the city, and we obtain a large number of them. So what you read just now specifically relates to one thing. That is, if you go back to the county, you cannot go after state funds. If you go to the county, you have no guarantee of getting 1 penny from the county. So this is the basic reason why the city council before decided we're large enough, we'd rather have the $1 million than nothing, and we're tired of begging the county for money for projects, and they don't give us anything or give us $25,000 when we ask them for $200,000. So that was the reasoning before, and the reason what the part that you just read specifically states, if you go with the county, we have no access to money from the state. If we go with the county, we have no guarantee of money from the county. So the bottom line is, if we stay in the comp plan with HUD, we at least get about $1 million that I use to leverage to go after other funds.
Right, I understand that. Let me ask my question a different way. So one of the programs is called Home. Is that not the program that that sounds like housing, because it's home. Is that not the program we're participating in?
All the other programs that you mentioned are income-specific kinds of programs, 99% of which the city of Bowie's residents do not qualify for. So Home is more of a housing, construction, and development kind of program, which we, again, would not qualify for through the majority of the activities that are already in our plans. If we have people with AIDS and those kinds of things that we get through one of the other programs you mentioned, there are ways that even with the funds that we have that I can be of assistance to that population. So it's just a question of prioritization. But a greater question is the extent to which you would have any funds if you were in the program with the county and gave up your own program.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. So just stepping back a little bit and zooming out, for the broader question, following up on Councilmember Wolfley's question, based on what you're seeing in your professional expertise, do you think it is best for us to stay in this program, or whatever program this is that we're discussing, that this may not be the actual name? Do you think it's best for us to stay in this program, or do you think that we could be taking a greater bet in another area and possibly going after other funds? Because essentially what you just outlined was, if we continue to take these funds from the county based off of the program, not necessarily called Home, but whatever it is called, we're foregoing other funds that could be coming from the state. So what I'm trying to understand is, could the possibility of those funds be greater, or is this a safer bet to just stay with this program?
I think it's best to stay with this program because we use the funds from this program and the credibility we get from having a cognizant federal agency, which means a large federal agency, which is HUD. It gives us the credibility to go to other federal agencies, foundations, other entities to pursue funds, which I do every day. So there is no greater opportunity that I see right now from a professional perspective, and you know I serve on all those boards.
That's super, super helpful. Okay, so just to make sure I understand clearly, what you're saying is you think this is the better opportunity because it also sets us up to be able to be in a better position to receive federal funding in certain grant areas that we might be going after versus leaving this program and pursuing other state grants. You think that methodology is better? Super clear. Thank you.
Correct.
Any other questions?
Are there any federal funds that, based off of the example that you just gave, can you give us an example of any federal funds that we might have received based off of our participation in this program?
Any federal funds that we might have received?
Like, as an example, because you said that being in this program puts you in a better space to be able to go after certain federal funds. Can you speak to any of those examples?
Yes, the HUD CDBG program is one that we've used to leverage funds to go through the state, where we've gotten community legacy funds. When I was at the state office where we created the Office of Neighborhood Revitalization under Paris Glendenning, that office now has about $20–30 million in funds that it used for strategic demolition and other programs under community legacy. So we brought in about $500,000 through that program, where we have implemented street construction programs in Old Town Bowie, replaced sidewalks, built parking lots, and several other things. So we use it as a leverage both statewide. The county has been difficult because their prioritization is on inner beltway communities, and therefore there are several communities outside that they do not give money to. Federal agencies are a little bit more difficult because both of our demographics, we are not a poor city, and a lot of that money is geared toward that. So we have gotten, you know, the money that, like the councilman was talking about from the water program. Of course, you know, I'm managing those monies too. So even though they come as earmarks, there are grants that come to these agencies. So we're able to say to those agencies, because of the experience that we have in having HUD as a cognizant agency, they allow us to proceed rather quickly with obtaining those funds and implementing them in the city.
One more question. There is, earlier this year, some council members, I think it was myself and Councilmember Esteve were on this call. We had a conversation with Maryland State Board of Affordable, I mean, not the board, but Maryland Department of Housing or Affordable Housing with our lobbyists. And basically we were trying to see if we were able to get any funding for affordable senior citizen assisted housing to be able to develop that in the city. It's a conversation that was very short. It didn't last for many months. What I want to ask is, by being a part of this program, if we were to try to pursue that with the state of Maryland at a later time, do you think that would preclude us being a part of this program? It would preclude us from obtaining any of that funding, or is that something that you might not know the answer to at this time?
It would not preclude us from getting the monies. As a matter of fact, the way they do that is through the developer, through Lightsea programs. So we would come in as a participant to join them. As a matter of fact, we're negotiating one now, similar program through the county because of the low-income housing trust fund that they have, looking at Lightsea funds for the Mill Branch Crossing project. So we're negotiating there with the builder, developer of that property, because you all ask us to get 10% of those units as affordable units there. So part of the process of funding and financing that is just what you just said.
Perfect. Great to know. Thank you so much.
Any other questions from any council members? Mr. Buggs, thank you so very much. I think you addressed several issues. I know there's more information that I think some of the council members would like to get a little more detail, but thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We need to get a motion now.
Mr.
Open the
Mayor.
floor for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve signature in ongoing participation, and that we conduct a cost-benefit analysis of our ongoing participation and a review of alternatives for participation.
I'd like to second that, Mr. Mayor.
It's been moved and properly second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same favor. Hearing none, motion carries. We will now move on to the historic properties presentation. And I'll turn it over to staff.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Adams and the city council members. Thank you very much for allowing me to have a little bit of your time to bring to your attention the historic properties that we have here for the city of Bowie. Again, my name is Susan Proctor. I'm the Historic Properties Manager, and I wanted to just take a few moments to share with you the interesting history that we have here in Bowie and all the things that the City of Bowie Museums offers. First of all, our prime directive, what drives the City of Bowie Museums, is our mission statement. And the mission for the City of Bowie Museums is to preserve, collect, interpret, and celebrate the public's interpretation of history, architecture, city plans, and people of Bowie, Maryland through education, exhibition, archaeology, and advocacy of this diverse history. And we try to do that in a variety of different ways. Our most important thing that we do is the conservation and the protection of our objects. And our objects include all of the historic buildings, as well as the decorative arts, photographs, documents, and the landscapes. And we work sometimes with other departments within the city to ensure that this happens. We also share and research and share the history for the city of Bowie. And we do that through working with other researchers, also providing educational opportunities, doing public programs, bringing in lectures, a whole host of formats that we utilize to spread this history throughout the area and throughout the state. And we do that with engaging over 10,000 visitors on an annual basis. So when you visit any of the museums, you're going to engage with at least one of these lovely people. And this is the staff for the city of Bowie. And within the staff, we have a curator, we have an events manager, a human resource specialist, educators, research librarians. The experience that they bring to the job is immense. But the most important thing that they do is they love history and they want to give back to the city of Bowie. We have, within the city of Bowie, 9 facilities. Those 9 facilities comprise 12 structures, 5 operating museums, 2 small family cemeteries, a library, and a golf course clubhouse. So I'm going to take a moment just to run through those different historic structures for you. The crown jewel, if I can use that term, of our historic properties is, thank you, is Bel Air Mansion. It was built in 1745 for Governor Samuel Ogle and his wife Ann Tasker Ogle. Sometimes this property is known as the House of Governors because not only was Governor Samuel Ogle, who was a provincial governor for the state, or governor for the colony, excuse me, his son Benjamin Ogle the first was also a state governor. This house sat on 2,500 acres, and when you come and visit the mansion, you're going to hear the changing interpretation or the changing history of that building. So we go from the Ogles to the Woodwards, who will come in 1789 and bring a thoroughbred horse racing fame to Bowie through their work. Then it will become the the base of operation for Levitt and Sons, for the creation of what we now know today as sort of modern Bowie. And then it becomes City Hall for a little over a decade, and ultimately then gets restored and is opened up as a museum in 1996. A few of the images from the inside, you see on the left-hand side, we're seeing the dining room set and decorated for the holiday season. In the upper center, that is the center hall. It's one of the loveliest spaces in the house. On the right-hand side, we do open the interpretation for the enslaved population that was at Bel Air Mansion. So within that story, we're providing the information that we know, as well as placing it in context with slavery within Prince George's County and within the state. And then the final picture is the bottom center. That particular picture is the south side of the mansion. Now, many people, when they visit Bel Air Mansion, and they pull in from Tulip Grove Drive, they look at the house and they think, what a beautiful home, and it is a beautiful home. But many people don't realize is that when they're driving and they're actually looking at the back of the mansion. It's the south side with the gardens and the terraced lawns that are actually the formal front. Bel Air Stable in 1907, as I said before, will bring thoroughbred horse racing fame to Bowie. It is out of this stable with the Woodwards being the owners at this time. In 1930, we will have Gallant Fox, who will be a Triple Crown winner. 5 years later, his son, Omaha, in 1935, will also be a Triple Crown winner, and they are the only 2 Triple Crown winners in thoroughbred racing history here in the United States. And by 1955, we have Nashua, who will be Horse of the Year, and just missed being that Triple Crown winner by losing one of those 3 races. Also, we talk about agriculture. When Mr. Woodward took over ownership of Bel Air Mansion in 1898, he wanted to bring agriculture back to the area. So within this building, we also address the farm animals and farm tools and other items that would have been popular for producing agricultural practices, farming and animal husbandry during this time period. We also, on the right-hand side, if you take a look at the African American jockeys exhibit there, we start to talk about the changing face of thoroughbred racing in the latter half of the 1800s. African American jockeys were the predominant jockeys during this time frame. Lots of fame and success on the racetrack, but they still were dealing with the social situation, social circumstances that they were dealing with, being African Americans in the United States in the 1900s or the 1800s. Down in Old Bowie, there's the Bowie Railroad Museum. It encompasses 3 different buildings, and on that particular property, we are discussing Bowie Railroad history. We're talking about railroad coming to the area, creating what we now know as Bowie. This is the start. This is where Bowie all began. And with those 3 buildings, we have the tower, which is on the left-hand side, which is really monitoring the tracks or the rail cars coming back and forth through the area. The top right is the depot building where you're buying your tickets, and it's indoor shelter for getting on the train. And then we have the waiting shed on the outside. So this museum really just focuses on the railroad history of Bowie. And we also have an additional item that people, especially the kids, love to visit, and that's the Chessie Caboose. It's traveling in style at this point. You get a sense of what it was really like to travel during this time frame inside. The Old Bowie Welcome Center, built in 1929, which is next door to the Bowie Railroad Museum, actually focuses on not the railroad so much, but it focuses on the development of the community. So within there, you're going to find out quite a bit about the schools, churches, businesses, the housing development, the community as it grew and developed from the beginning of the railroad. Many people don't realize that Bowie actually started out in 1870 being known as Huntington City. And it was only a couple of years later that it actually will change the name to Bowie. Across the street, across Route 197 behind the TD Bank, is a small park called Major Thomas Lansdale Park. Within that park, you will see a small family cemetery, and within that, you will find the gravesite of Major Thomas Lancaster Lansdale. He is the only Revolutionary War veteran buried within Bowie proper. And he will serve in the Continental Army from 1778 to 1783. In White Marsh Park, we have this lovely building referred to as Williams Plains. It was built for Court of Appeals Judge John Johnson. That building, you will see it as you go into White Marsh Park and you're going back to the Bowie Playhouse. You'll see it on the right-hand side. The building at this time is temporarily closed due to some structural issues, but it is our desire to hopefully have it up and operating again. The Bowie Golf Course Clubhouse. As you visit the Bowie Golf Course and you look at their clubhouse, you may not initially see or think that that's an actual historic building. But actually in the core of the building, and you can see it, I've encircled it here, is a 1727 house known as Fair Running. Fair Running is one of only 2 existing examples in Prince George's County of early domestic architecture of this type. After fair running, after the last family left and it was taken over, little by little, modern additions were added onto the building. But the core structure, the core historic building is still there. Now we have another building here, which is just down the street on Tulip Grove Drive from Bel Air Mansion. It's the Prince George's County Genealogy Library. It was an original Levitt home, but today it is owned by the city and managed by the city, but it is actually operated by the Prince George's County Genealogical Society. Once you enter inside, you're going to find books and maps and documents, not only from the state of Maryland and Prince George's County, but you're going to find research items from almost every state in the Union. It's a wonderful little library, and it is overseen by the society with a strong core of volunteers that come in to keep it up and running. The next building is the National Capital Radio and Television Museum. It's located at the intersection of Mitchellville Road and Mount Oak Road. Its focus is to talk about the advancement and changes of radio and television over the last several decades. It too is another facility that the city owns and manages, but is operated by the Radio and Television Society. It originally was a storehouse. The City of Bowie Museums offers throughout all of its museums a whole host of programs, from history lectures to exercise sessions on the lawn, genealogy workshops. We have a big one coming up at the end of this month. We work with partners in the community, such as the Bowie Croft and Garden Club, to do their annual plant sale, as well as we do a whole host of holiday activities. And here are just a few images of those activities from the Buffalo Soldiers coming and doing a presentation for us for our very popular, going on 3 years now, Wine and Design. I think they were doing an autumnal basket at this point. Our last wine and yoga on the lawn activity had 71 people out there doing yoga, and then they went inside and had a little wine tasting as well. We also have authors that come in and will do books. Our most recent one was a couple of weeks ago. That author had just written a book on the Gallant Fox and Omaha from Bel Air Stable. And so after that lecture, people had an opportunity to come in and have the author sign the book. We do a whole host of family-friendly activities, such as the Family Fall Fun. It was the first time last year. We did that at Bel Air Stable. We had over 400 visitors. Kids can come dressed in their costumes. They can do trick-or-treating down the stalls. Crafts and other activities are there for them. We do a Bob Ross paint night always in November. So if you want to try your hand and learn how Bob Ross painted, this is a great opportunity. We do Maryland Heritage Day, where we do pony rides, the annual plant sale. Probably our most favorite activity and program that we do is the Magic Elf Hunt. We do that over a couple of weekends in December, and this past year we had over 700 people at the mansion looking for those mischievous elves that are now hiding at the mansion. And so as you can see, that little girl found one hiding under the blanket on the bed. We also do a whole host of other holiday activities at all of the museums, whether it's train spotting or writing letters to Santa and are mailed down at the Welcome Center, to reindeer games at Bel Air Stable. All of the museums take part in the holiday activities, and we even have what I call passive attendance. And those are visitors who take advantage of coming to the museums without inviting them to an event. So if we get an inch of snow on the lawn at the mansion, people are back there and they're snow sledding down our terrace lawn. We are a popular spot and a traditional spot for visitors to come for their prom pictures and their graduation pictures. So you'll see moms and dads and kids in beautiful outfits that are going to their prom, and then that's where they're getting their annual picture for that. We have gardeners that come, people who are doing picnics. All sorts of activities are happening because they're taking advantage of the beautiful facilities that we have at our museums. And our future for our city museums is to continue researching and increasing the knowledge of our stories and helping to tell a broader, diverse stories at all of our individual museums. We want to continue to expand our community engagement and programs with other groups in the community. And we are hoping and desiring to continue to have a more proactive approach in the restoration of our historic properties. So you'll see over the next couple of years, we'll be picking one building at a time and doing a historic building analysis to sort of catch any things of concern for the building now instead of waiting 5 years from now and having them grown a little further. With all of that being said, I want to invite each and every one of you to please come to the historic properties. I'm happy to give you a private tour of all of our museums and see everything that we offer and the beautiful history that we have here in Bowie. And with that being said, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Well, first and foremost, I'd like to thank you for that presentation. There were a couple of historical facts that I thought I already knew, but you even enlightened me to a couple of things. The one question, and again, I'd say that I think anyone who has visited any of these properties or has any engagement with the city understands how well preserved and what a great job the historic properties, the whole staff and everyone is doing. And also, you know, we talk about customer service and just the way that people are greeted and treated, and they leave away with a very positive attitude. So thank you for that. Now, the one question I have for you, and maybe something, if not, could we possibly do is, do we have a condensed calendar of all the events that are going on at all the properties that you can get in one place? I know we have the Bowie Spotlight and other things. Where can citizens and others get that list of all of what's going on at all the properties for the year?
So you're correct. We do have all of our events on the calendar, on the city's calendar of events, and they do a wonderful job of promoting us through Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all of that. For me, if I have your email address and you give me the consent, I send out every month a calendar for that month of what's coming up in the month of July. So we're just getting ready to send that out. In regards to the entire year, I will be honest with you, I do not have a consolidated document that I can send out for the entire year. It's sort of piecemealed in.
Well, but my point being, because sometimes, you know, for planning purposes, I'll use it as an example, a family reunion coming up, and wanting to know what events, what things are going on, and be able to plan with that. So maybe we could look at seeing how we might be able to take it out, if not for the full year, but for maybe 3 months at a time, or if we can a year or something. Because I think that would give our citizens and everyone a chance to kind of plan.
No, I think that's a wonderful idea. And actually, one of those staff members that you saw earlier is a college student, and she's working on a mass communication degree, and she's actually working with me this summer to improve our advertising. And so I will definitely bring that to her attention.
Hey, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comment? Councilman Wolfe?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Ms. Proctor, for all the great work that you and your staff do. I'll start by telling you that you've received accolades from my father, who is not an easy man to impress. He is a historian and author and researcher, and a number of years ago, a couple years ago, we took him, he was visiting, and took him to the mansion, and he was well impressed, as are most visitors that travel there, and certainly the other facilities do well in addition to that. So thank you. We have something certainly to be proud of. Speaking of something to be proud of, I know there's always an ongoing dilemma between preserving historic properties and making them accessible, and what accessible means in terms of utilization. That is to say, here we are, we have this wonderful asset. What can we do to broaden the use? I know when my wife and I were married, it seems, just a couple of weeks ago, we had our reception at the Newton White Mansion, which was a wonderful facility, not too dissimilar from what we have here in terms of the quality of the property. I dare say, because I'm a little provincial, that I prefer our mansion to theirs. But nonetheless, that was an opportunity that was available. This was not available for us right here in Bowie, certainly not at that time, quite a number of years ago. But we do have the facility now, and I do know that there are some space constraints. I do know, for example, on the Newton White property at the time, there were some space constraints as well. There have been some additions, modifications made to that property to allow for greater use. Can you speak to a little bit about what your organization is doing to look into some broader use of that facility in particular, but also I know that certainly the stables are another opportunity, although I know the stables are shy on resources in terms of bathroom facilities and things like that. So can you speak a little bit about what your thoughts are on how we can expand the availability, because I know the mayor has a large family, and the mayor may want to rent the facility, given that his current mansion may not be sufficiently grandiose and he might want to use the Bowie mansion for his family reunion, and I think that would be a wonderful sort of thing to be able to rent out for.
Right. I actually, prior to coming to the city of Bowie, I worked for Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission at one of their historic sites. I was part of the history division at that location. So I know the sites that you're talking about very well, Oxon Hill Mansion and Newton White Mansion, and not historic building, but another one of their catering facilities, the PG County Ballroom. So I'm well aware of those facilities, and both of those buildings at one point were historic properties, historic museums that did interpretation and offered tours and things like that. But they changed their mission, and their mission was to be a rental facility. So unlike us, they are a historic building that does rentals. We're a historic building that interprets and operates as a museum and interprets history. And occasionally, where we can, we do rentals. You're very correct. We are limited on the space that we can have a rental at Bel Air Mansion for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons being is part of our code as museum people is there are ways in which we handle and we deal with our objects. And to open up the entire building to a rental would means we would be on a regular basis potentially having to pick up the objects, move them, put them in storage, and bring them back. And that would be contrary to what we're supposed to do. Every time you touch an object, you run the risk of breaking it and damaging it. So even with our cleaning practices, they are very, very limited so that we don't damage those kinds of objects. Other issues, I know there have been conversations about tents and things like that that we have considered. I'll speak specifically about Bel Air Mansion because most people see that site and as a lovely rental facility, and it is. But for Bel Air Mansion, most people also don't realize is that underneath the ground there, shallow, is our irrigation system. So to put a tent or anything on the lawn, we have to, even with our pop-up tents, it's no stakes in the ground. It has to be weighted down. And then even with that, there are limitations being able to drive a truck back there to offload that equipment, especially when you want to do a 150, 200 person wedding, which most people do when they do call. They are looking for large scale venues, which is why places like Oxon Hill Mansion and Newton White are so great because they've extended these lovely gazebos and these lovely facilities and paved platforms outside. So it's not so much not wanting to do, it's just that our facilities and the way we have to conduct ourselves as proper museum professionals does drastically limit what we can and we can't do with the building. Speaking of Bel Air Stable, that too is a little bit of a different story because where some things at Bel Air Mansion we can offer, we have a bridal room, a changing room, we have facilities where the bridal party can go and separate themselves and prepare for the reception. Bel Air Stable doesn't sort of offer that, and there is no indoor location where we have a beautiful courtyard, absolutely, but if we have that, we put that outside. and it rains, there is no place to retreat to get inside and be able to still offer a good facility, as well as all the cooking and all the sort of health codes that we have to also follow. So it's not that we don't want to in any way, shape, or form. It's just a little harder to do it as we follow our current code and what our mission statement says we're supposed to be. I hope that answered some of your questions.
It does. I do think, though, that at some point we need to, see what we can do to further expand it. There may be alternatives to the irrigation system we have. There may be some other alternatives that I think we ought to be exploring. I feel like we're really missing an opportunity for more people to learn about it, because when 100 people do show up and they go through the building and they may not come on their own, just walking by the street, down the street, they may be from out of town, but it does become a focal point. If they're here for a wedding, they do learn about Bowie, they do learn about the state, they do learn about history just by virtue of visiting, even though that may not have been their main purpose. They may have been there to celebrate, a family's, great wedding or what have you. However, I think there's also a lot to be gained from that experience on the education side. So.
No, you're absolutely correct. When anybody comes to an event at the mansion, even when they're non-historic events, Wine and Design, which is a very successful program, there's nothing history-oriented about it. But it brings people to the mansion who normally would not have come because they're not interested in history, but they might be interested in doing some artwork. And so we're sharing that knowledge and introducing the facility to them at that time. So I absolutely hear what you're saying, and I'm more than willing and happy to have conversations to sort of see how we can adapt and adjust. But there are some hurdles that we do have to give some serious consideration to.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, council members? If not, I'd like to take a moment. Deputy Chief.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, do you mind if I jump in real quick?
Go ahead, please.
Hey, I appreciate the presentation, and would it be possible for the historic properties staff to come back to us with kind of a list of specific structural changes we would have to make in order to be able to host the larger events? So I don't think, for instance, we'd be able to fix the kitchens necessarily, but I do believe there are other historic Maryland National Capital Park and Planning facilities where they don't necessarily have working kitchens, but they are able to host larger events by just having food brought in on like warmers. But I think the irrigation system was mentioned specifically, getting a sense of what it would actually take to fix that. And the reason I bring this all up, frankly, is because I probably have been inside and probably have a greater appreciation for most of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning historic properties because they are rentals. I've actually just have been to lots of events at these facilities. And because our properties are so history and preservation focused, I think they end up probably seeing even less foot traffic than if they were actually rental oriented. So I'm definitely in favor of looking to see how we can shift focuses a little bit, especially at the Bel Air Mansion, because that's such a unique and wonderful footprint. But just knowing what's going on in Parks and Planning, we seem to be leaving a lot of opportunity potentially on the table. Not for necessarily bad reasons, but I think maybe it's time that we consider looking at some of these objections and seeing what it would actually cost and take to overcome some of them. So I would love to see what it would take to change the irrigation system. And then any other specific material or infrastructure concerns that property staff would have. I'd be curious to see those in writing as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other comments? Chief, if you would, we'd like to recognize you and say good evening to you and thank you for all you do.
Deputy Chief.
Any comments you'd like to make at this time?
Mayor, I think, we're set for some information you'd like to share with council, once the open session is closed.
Thank you. Close session. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we let the public and everyone see and hear and know that we appreciate you being here. Having said that, at this time, I would like to wish everyone a happy 4th of July, a special calling all to the men and women who serve in our armed forces and those who have served. And so I just want to say again, please have a safe and enjoyable 4th of July. Remember what this nation is built upon. And we talk about those freedoms, and there are people who put their lives on the line every day for those freedoms. Not only our military and others, but our first responders as well. And we appreciate you. And at this time, I will entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn and move to closed session under, excuse me one second, I'm gonna pull up the language, unless you have it handy. Oh, thank you so much. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn and move to closed session under the statutory authority of the Maryland Annotated Code, General Provisions, Article subsection 3-305B10 to discuss public security if the public body determines that public discussion would constitute a risk to the public or to public security, including the deployment of fire and police services and staff, and 2, the development and implementation of emergency plans.
Second?
A second.
It's been moved and properly second that we adjourn and go to closed session. All in favor, please respond with an aye. Aye. Opposed, same favor.
Aye.
Hearing none, motion carries. Good night, everyone, and thank you all so very much for being with us, and to those who are watching, again, a happy 4th of July. City staff, as always, thank you for everything.